I played this. I put a clip together over the weekend that some people saw, but I wanted to do a little breakup, but I want to put it back up on the screen. This shows the share of global manufacturing. And on the far left hand, you'll see a red line. That's China. Back in 2003, they were just about 10% of the global share of GDP. Today, they are over 30. Conversely, in 2003, the United States was at about 24%, and we are now just over 15. When you take the United States, Japan, and Germany right now today, combine us all, we don't even match China. This is why all of this stuff matters. We're not making stuff anymore. And that's an existential threat to our very being, militarily, economically. And we have to understand that. If we keep kicking the can down the road, we won't build stuff in this country anymore. Because it's become so attractive to go do it everywhere else. That's a problem for our industrial base. Whether it's munitions or ships. I mean, you get into the national security aspect, we don't build stuff anymore. That's a problem. But I want to play you this real clip. Michael Schellenberg had a guy named Oren Cass on his podcast, Public. And it was really cool because Oren Cass actually was a Romney guy. He was the domestic policy advisor on Romney. You would think this guy's a globalist. But he had this great conversation. I want to play you a second of it. Take a listen.
We have to pay attention to our fellow Americans, and that this system that we have been on for too long has really undermined their ability. And yes, there's other things going on. I'm a huge critic of fentanyl and the drug, all of that. We have a big addiction problem. We have a problem of nihilism. We have a problem of decadence. But fundamentally, you've got to have high pay, good jobs, making things that are essential to national security. I mean, I just think the whole, Ricardo argument of comparative advantage, all that falls apart when you get to microchips. If you're not making, how much more of a dramatic case do you need than the fact that they're made in Taiwan and China's going to take over Taiwan? Yeah. Like that. Sometimes I wake up and I'm actually afraid. I'm like, why do we not have any chip plants yet? Like, we're actually moving way too slow. Plus, you need some PPE, as we saw during COVID.
All right. You see that there. We're not making, it's not just manufacturing stuff. We're not manufacturing the stuff we need. I've said this before, so you've heard it if you're a longtime listener of the show. China sends us a virus, a worldwide pandemic sent from it. And then we turn to them and say, could we buy some PPE from you, sir? How insane is that? We have got to get our priorities in order. And like I said, the easy thing is to do nothing politically. President Trump's willing to stake it all on the floor, and put it all out there and fight for us. I get it. If you're looking at your 401k today, probably not a good day. You think I'm looking excited? No. But the question is, what kind of country do I want my kids and their kids to live in? One where we don't build anything and we're completely dominated by China, or one in which we were willing to actually bring back some stuff here. Scott Bassett was on Meet the Press making the case. I want you to take a look at what he had to say.
This has been years in the building, years in the making. This unsustainable system, our trading partners have taken advantage of us. We can see that through the large surpluses. We can see this through the large budget deficits. And also, Kristen, this is a national security problem, which we saw during COVID. We saw during COVID that optimal supply chains are not resilient. And what I could say is the only good outcome from COVID is it was a beta test for what would happen if our supply chains got broken. And President Trump has decided that we cannot be at risk like that for our crucial medicines, for semiconductors, for shipping. And we are going to move forward so the American people can know that they are going to have a more secure future.
Boom. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, also out there making the case. Take a listen to what he said, because it's similar, but I want you to understand the magnitude of this. It's not just, we can't get cheap stuff anymore. This is real stuff. Take a listen to the Commerce Secretary.
You've got to realize this is a national security issue. We don't make medicine in this country anymore. We don't make ships. We don't have enough steel and aluminum to fight a battle right? All our semiconductors are made overseas, so every button we press when we try to start our car or even use our microwave, these are all semiconductors. They're all made elsewhere. We've got to start to protect ourselves, and we've got to stop having all the countries of the world ripping us off. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, and the rest of the world has a surplus with us. They're earning our money. They're taking our money.
Right.
And Donald Trump has seen this, and he's going to stop it. So it is going to be a big change. Of course it's going to be a big change, but the rest of the world has been ripping us off for all these many years. Donald Trump has seen it. He's spoken about it.
I understand
and he's just
that.
not going to take it anymore, and that's his model.
By the way, it's clearly Howard Lutnick's turn to make Margaret Brennan look like an idiot. Well done. But beyond the national security point, which I think is huge and important, right? You know where I stand on this. There's an economic point, and Scott Bessent made that point as well. I want you to play this. Take a look.
Kristen, what I like is data. And if we look at data from President Trump's first term, and there's a big study that just came out from a group of economists, mostly at MIT, that showed that a 20% tariff on China led to a 0.7% tax or price level increase over 4 years. I think that's pretty good. If we can take in 20% in tariffs and it's a 0.7% increase. And Kristen, the little publicized story this week, everyone wants to look at the stock market going down. You know what else went down? Oil prices went down almost 15% in 2 days, which impacts working Americans much more than the stock market does. Interest rates hit their low for the year, so I'm expecting the mortgage applications to pick up.
Well, just to be very clear, though, I mean, during President Trump's first terms, the cost to Americans was nearly $80 billion in new taxes due to his tariffs. Prices did go up on everything from washing machines to tires.
Well, no, but let's go back. The aggregate number was 0.7, so we can discern the individual things. Also, households saw real net wages go up. So if wages go up faster than prices, which is not what happened over the past 4 years, that's why the bottom 50% got eviscerated.
You know, you don't hear that though, right? What he just said. Think about this for a second. Wages went up faster than prices, so net, that's good for you. Oil's going down, mortgage rates are going down. The media wants to tell you that the sky is falling and everything's bad. And I get it. I have a 401k. I've got a retirement account. I look at it. But net, think about what he's saying with respect to China over 4 years. How much we took in and what we paid for that. That's a good thing. All of these companies that we talk about in the past that are coming back here, Taiwan Semiconductor, Hyundai, Apple, they're doing it because of these policies. More investment in the United States. That's great. More jobs in the United States. That's great. You can't just get that, though, by like snapping your fingers or waving a magic wand and saying, would you please like to come back? They have to see policies that say it makes sense to be here. Our bottom line, why do you think they left in the first place? Not because they love the weather in Uzbekistan. It's because they said it's cheaper to do business. We can sell more stuff. If the United States becomes more attractive to do business in, they'll come back here. They'd rather operate under our rules. We know that. So just remember that. And the stats that Secretary Bessent put out there speak to that. Oil's down, so when you go fill up your car, I noticed it driving carpool. When I drive through town, I see the prices are down, right? It's like $2.90 a gallon for unleaded. Wasn't like that for the last 4 years, was it? Price of eggs, down. Interest rates, down. But they don't want to talk about that on TV or in the Washington Post. They just tell you about your stock market. The other thing that they're not talking about, and here's Kevin Hassett. What's the goal? Europe, pick your country, has this tariff. Where's my list? Right here, right? Here's all these countries. 67 China, Vietnam 90, 72 Thailand, Switzerland 61. I thought they were neutral. It's not. These are all the tariffs they charged. Once they knew these reciprocal tariffs were going on, what did they do? Kevin Hassett, what did they do? I'm going to hear from you.
I got a report from the USTR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so I don't think that you're going to see a big effect on the consumer in the U.S. because I do think that the reason why we have a persistent long-run trade deficit is these people have very inelastic supply. They've been dumping goods into the country in order to create jobs, say, in China.
Okay, so again, remember this. They're calling. The president just said today that Japan was calling. Israel's here today. Vietnam. They're all trying to get a deal. So yes, 3 days of your 401k going up and down like an EKG. I get it. Not great. But in the long term, if we can do things that get manufacturing back and greater market access, is it worth it? Or would you rather keep getting ripped off for another generation? If you're a rancher or you're a farmer, I mean, I talked to these pork producers a few weeks ago, and they said for every pig, we can only sell basically, there's 2 pieces of whatever, but they can only sell about half of it in the U.S. market share wise. The other half they have to export. The nose goes to China. I mean, all these parts that we wouldn't eat in America, they go somewhere. People love that stuff. I don't know why, but they do. And they can't get the rest of the pig into other markets because of their tariff rates. If they can, guess who wins? Our farmers, our ranchers. They win. This is more than just, a trade war. It's bringing these tariffs down to allow market access. But remember, all of the same people, I alluded to this a little while ago, who told us about how they're so convinced that everything's going to go wrong. Kevin Hassett, again, I want to play a clip from him because the historical context is important. These same people told us to pursue policies. And I want Kevin Hassett, the director of the National Economic Council for the president, to talk about this for a second, because you're not getting this piece in the CNN Washington Post political news. Take a listen.
The fact is that if there were going to be a heavy burden on the U.S. consumer, then this trade deficit that for 30 years we've seen really since China entered the WTO would be something that would have gone down. It would have gone down over time. It would have responded to the prices. The bottom line is that China entered the WTO in 2000. In the 15 years that followed, real incomes declined about $1,200 cumulatively over that time. And so if cheap goods were the answer, if cheap goods were going to make Americans' real wages, real welfare better off, then real incomes would have gone up over that time. Instead, they went down because wages went down more than prices went down. So we got the cheap goods at the grocery store, but then we had fewer jobs. And that's why President Obama and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and President Trump have come out saying we've got to come up with a better policy, a policy that treats our workers fairly compared to everybody else. And now President Trump, true to his word, just like he promised during the campaign, just like he put into his campaign platform, he's delivering on his word.
So all the people who told us, oh, when China goes into the WTO, that's going to be a good thing. That's a great thing. All of these people that you're hearing from, probably to a T, said that. What is Hassett saying there? Real incomes declined about $1,200 over that time. So you made less money. This context is critical to understanding what's happening. Yes, you can get cheaper crap from China, but it's actually affecting your wages. Those are going down. They're not keeping up because we can buy cheaper stuff. And we sit here and go, oh, what's going on? Like, how did this happen? Because the same geniuses that told us that we should do all this stuff are now saying, oh, well, guess what's not going to happen? Maybe, just maybe, the same people who told us that Donald Trump couldn't win, the same people who told us that, are wrong too. He has defied their expectations, defied their so-called conventional wisdom and expertise over and over and over again. Maybe it's time that we tried something different. Listen, I got a lot on the line. You do too. I get that. Retirement accounts, savings. I'm not happy about it. I look at my account. But I also know that if you care about the country and you care about the future, then maybe it's worth a week or a month of disruption. It may take a couple days for it to rejigger itself. But let's not panic. Like, think about it. I mean, imagine if you went on a diet and the first day you went, wow, this is killing me. It's killing me. What do you think's going to happen? You think you should have just waved your magic wand and you would have lost 20 pounds? It's not easy. Do you want to be really good in a sport? You think you just stand up to the line and dunk a ball? No. You practice, you work out. It's hard. Donald Trump in that clip we played earlier talked about taking your medicine. I get it. It's been decades of us getting whacked around and treated like crap. So it's not going to happen overnight. I'm not saying that this should take a few years, but I'm saying understand that he's got to get taken seriously. For everyone who says, oh, he should just pause this. You think they're going to take him seriously if he pauses all this right off the bat? Not going to happen. I mentioned the farmers and ranchers. Brooke Rollins was on CNN explaining the reality of what's going on to farmers and ranchers to Jake Tapper, because I'm sure he's ever been on a farm or a ranch in his life. Take a listen to what the ag secretary has to say.
You've got 2 days of data. Everyone, especially on your side, on the left, is freaking out.
I'm not on the left.
But at the end of the day, listen, this whole concept, all right, Jake, thank you. This whole concept is about rebuilding an American economy around American good.
All right. That was awesome. That was my clip of the day, by the way. But I want to show you what she actually said about ranchers and farmers and the reality that they have. Take a look.
The bottom line is this. In the last 4 years, the cost of inputs for our farmers went up 30%. In the last 4 years, we had an agriculture export deficit that increased from zero when President Trump left to $49 billion. Our farming and our farmers and ranchers are hurting. They are operating at margins of profit that are thinner than they have in a really long time due to the policies of the last 4 years. But to Senator Tillis's point, we have to be prepared that if there is longer term damage, and this president has been very focused on this, and I've been saying it pretty much ad nauseum for the last 50 days since I've been in office, is that we will make sure that we have the funds, in working with the senators and working with the appropriators, that we can do what we did last time, which I think Secretary Perdue last time spent about $25 to $28 billion to mitigate some of the fallout from the last tariffs for the short term. The long term, the tariffs worked. I mean, the research shows that we had an increase in productivity, increase in jobs, et cetera, until, frankly, the Biden administration stopped enforcing some of those, the deal once we left office in 2021.
Now, again, this is important. In the last 4 years, this is what the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, saying right there. The cost of inputs for our farmers went up 30%. In 4 years, in the last 4 years, we had an agricultural export deficit that increased from zero when President Trump left office to $49 billion. Do you realize? I mean, without context, I get it why people are freaking out. But if you're a farmer or rancher trying to do business and get a good deal, they're living, in many cases, crop to crop, season to season. And when I ask them, they're willing to fight. Not everyone, but most of them are saying, hey, look, we can't keep doing this the way it is. We can't make it. And if we do, we're going to have to sell our farm because our next generation doesn't want to take it over. There are serious problems. And I'm just telling you, like, this is not easy. This is going to be disruptive. I get it. But it was interesting. Of all places, Axios had a story out that gave some actual interesting context that I want to read you. It says, Trump is right that plenty of countries engage in unfair trade practices and that globalization has hollowed out key parts of America's industrial base. Oh, now we're going to say it? China, the world's second largest economy, has a long record of trade abuses, IP theft, intellectual property, forced technology transfers, meaning if you do business in there, they get to come and take all of your technology, state subsidies and market access restrictions for foreign countries. Okay, so in other words, again, they steal from us. They won't let us into their market. What more should we do? Just keep letting that happen? The European Union, according to Axios, doesn't cheat the way China does, but it protects its own through generous agricultural subsidies and strict regulatory standards that often double as trade barriers. Our farmers and ranchers can't get into those markets. And by the way, like in a lot of cases, they want our stuff. In the 1970s, this is Axios again, a quarter of Americans worked in manufacturing. Now less than 10% do. recruiting and training a manufacturing workforce will take time and money. Yes. So anyway, I think this is one of the points that I want to get through to you guys is context matters. We've allowed China and the rest of these countries to take advantage of us. And we all thought it was in the context, oh, well, they'll be responsible stakeholders and they'll do this. Are you kidding me? They were like, shouldn't be this easy the way we're ripping you guys off. Here's the deal. I'm not excited about the stock market or my 401k, but I am willing to give this president the time to fight, because every other president in a bipartisan basis in modern history has given us a ton of excuses why we can't do certain things. President Trump easily could say, it's easy. He's not. He's willing to fight. So let's have his back. Let's stand with him to try to allow this to occur, because it's not going to be easy. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.